Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Hogan. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go. Now, it looks like I have received a tip. So what's funny about this tip, okay, is I get a tip, and at first it seems nice. It does. But then as I read it, it's a troll message. Now, I gotta follow up to something that happened last week. It was actually 1 week ago tomorrow. I started my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. Okay? Let's talk about this, because I think this is something that we should talk about as a community and figure out how to handle this stuff. Okay?
You know, I feel like every time he says that we have to talk about something and come together as a community and figure out what we're gonna do, it doesn't actually mean that at all. What it actually means is that he's gonna vent to you about it and he's gonna figure out what he wants to do about it, and you're just gonna have to deal with whatever decision he decides that he's gonna make. Which is fine, it is his channel, he can do whatever he wants, and I totally respect that aspect. But don't sit here and act like you're gonna actually listen to the feedback that's coming from your audience, because that's just not the case. You don't listen to feedback, you don't care what they have to say, so quit acting like you do.
So when I started my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, all right, people were saying, people were being very generous, okay? And while people were being very generous, a lot of contributions were coming in. And I'm shouting them out one by one that morning. And all of a sudden, I get a whopping $200 tip from someone. And that's insane. I usually don't get tips that large. Just so everyone knows, if you're not a regular around here, you don't watch my stuff all the time, there's no one that comes in and regularly is dropping these ginormous tip bombs or anything like that, right? It's a community effort. You know, a little contribution here or there adds up. That's how I make my living. To get something significant like that is huge to me, all right?
Yeah, and I really don't know why this person gave you $200. If you ask me, nobody should be giving you money point blank, period, not a single dollar. You should be living on the streets like the little beggar that you are. But hey, that's just my thoughts. I'm not the guy that gave you money, so it's not up to me.
So I'm super appreciative. And I'm like, all right, let's read out this message. So I start reading it out. And the message, I'm going to paraphrase, obviously.
God, I hate when DSP paraphrases. He never actually captures what the person is saying when he does it. It's always just a blatant misrepresentation of what the person was actually saying, whether that be for better or for worse in some cases.
But the message obviously says something like this. So just so you know, I'm a detractor of yours. I outright am admitting openly that I'm a hater of yours. But it's good to see you play Baldur's Gate 3, and because you're doing that, I wanted to contribute. Here you go, right? Something like to that effect.
That wasn't actually too inaccurate. I'm surprised, but he did leave out the part where he said, you have 1,000 viewers, eat your heart out. And then he called you a fuckface. Those were his words, not mine. I wouldn't use that kind of language.
Now, I want you to think about this, all right? A lot of people say that my haters are my biggest fans. That the people who don't like me, or at least are in communities that like to dump on me, right, are the people who watch me more than anyone else. And in a lot of ways, even though as much as they say they really don't like me, it's bullshit. Because in reality, they do like me because they wouldn't watch me as much as they did if they didn't. And they want me to continue to be successful because that way they have more to talk about.
See, I was with you all the way up until about the halfway point on that one. No, DSP, your biggest fans are your detractors, 100%. They watch more of your content than anybody else. Your actual fans do not nearly watch as much DSP gaming as the detractors do. With that being said, shout outs. We absolutely do not like you. And I can only speak for myself when it comes to this, but I don't care whether you continue to make content or not. The second that you're gone, I am also gone and I can go do other things. I can go be more productive. I can quit having fun with this and go have fun somewhere else. I don't need you to continue making content. My world is not better because you've decided to make content. I find you entertaining in the worst way possible, just like many other people do. So in summary, yes, your detractors watch more of your content than anybody else and they are technically your biggest fans, but they do not have to like you just to watch you fail. Nobody has to wish that you continue being successful, whatever that means to you, so that you can continue doing this, because at the end of the day, everyone would just move on and go do something else.
If I were to go away overnight, they have nothing else to do. So they'd prefer to have me continue on than not, right?
But you're wrong right there. That's it. That's the point that you seem to be missing. Other people can just go do other things. They have hobbies outside of the DSP Snortex. In fact, a lot of the detractors are very, very talented. And they could do a lot of other things elsewhere if they decided to get out of the Snortex at any point. And I'm not just talking about talent in the personality field. Some of these detractors really do have good skills that they could transfer anywhere else. Whether that be musical style, drawing style, animation style, it doesn't matter. There's just so much talent in this community. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to join and do something with it. Not that I provide any of those things, but you know what I'm saying.
And so you might say, well, in regards to that contribution, okay? Is it real or not? Is it valid? Well, it's real. It's there. It's in my PayPal right now, right? It's good. But here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize about PayPal contributions, right? They're not permanent.
I'm 100% aware that he's going to talk about chargebacks, but when he talks about contributions not being permanent, the first thing that pops into my head is, yeah, jackass, you spend all of the money on Hogan's? Like I said, I know he's going to talk about chargebacks, but it's just a weird way to put it that these contributions aren't permanent. I don't know, the guy talks like an alien sometimes.
When someone tips via PayPal, PayPal has all these different policies, right? And so, I hate to say it, one of the policies I disagree with is that if someone lies, outright lies to PayPal, which by the way is a crime. Just to make this perfectly clear, if you lie to PayPal about the nature of any transaction, you're committing fraud. It's literally a crime that could be prosecuted if PayPal so chose to investigate and prosecute it.
Yeah, DSP, and what you allegedly did was commit bankruptcy fraud, so I don't know if you really want to start casting aspersions as wildly as you are about some sort of fraud. Like I said, allegedly, I'm not a law-style individual. That's just what I heard around the grapevine, and that's kind of the way that the numbers work out to me when I see them. I just think it's really ironic that you want to call out other people for committing fraud when the word on the street is that you did the exact same thing, if not on a way grander scale.
Now, do you think PayPal is going to investigate and prosecute a bunch of small tips? Of course they're not. You know, if someone was sending thousands of dollars over PayPal regularly and lying about every transaction, then maybe you'd actually get investigated and be found guilty and go to jail. But for just a common person, this is not stuff that they're going to do, right? It's just something they're going to let go.
Except for all of those totally normal people that they absolutely got with that kind of shit. In the same sense that you don't typically get caught for piracy if that's something that you're into. I cannot condone that behavior, but if that's something that you do, typically you don't get caught and it's not that big a deal. Except for all of those people who did wind up getting caught by their ISP and had to pay some sort of fine or go to court or whatever. Shoplifting really isn't that big a deal, and typically you don't get prosecuted for doing so, you just get trespassed from the store and cannot return. Except for all of those people who had to pay their fines and go to court and do all of the stupid things that happen when you get caught committing crimes. There's just something about the way that he speaks with such confidence on a subject that he's clearly wrong about. Sure, not everybody is going to be prosecuted the way that they should be. Not all of the proper actions are going to be taken just because the rules were broken. But that doesn't mean that people aren't being held responsible to some degree. It doesn't necessarily have to be thousands of dollars for PayPal to just decide that that's what they want to do today.
But in regards to PayPal, when someone tips, sadly there is something called a chargeback. And for those who aren't aware of the ins and outs of PayPal, what a chargeback is let's say someone sends a payment. Let's say someone sends me a $50 tip and says, Phil, Merry Christmas. And then they decide to contact PayPal and lie and say, I never authorized that tip. I don't know where that came from. I want my money back.
I like that whenever he pig-splains what a chargeback is to his audience for the upteenth time, he never actually tells them that chargebacks have a legitimate use for legitimate fraud cases. He always describes chargebacks as though detractors are the only people who do them, and that the entire system should just be gone away with because the trolls use it as a way to mess with him. Never mind the countless people who actually utilize chargebacks the intended way. Those people who had actual crimes committed against them. Forget those people because DSP is way more important, obviously. Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, categories.
So now PayPal has to file a claim, and that claim hits me and I lose that $50. And now it's up to me, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. It's up to me to try to prove to PayPal that that was a legitimate tip and that I should keep the money, right?
I just want to point out that I've been watching YouTube content creation for a very long time, the vast majority of my life even, because I'm not that old. And DSP is the only content creator that I've ever actually even heard mention chargebacks whatsoever. No other content creator that I have ever watched has mentioned any sort of chargebacks through PayPal. Do I think that they happened? Yeah, probably. I try and believe DSP as far as I can just following his logic because it never winds up adding up in the end anyway. I just think it's really suspicious that I've never heard other content creators talking about it before. You would think that if this is something that happens so frequently that DSP is bringing it up at least multiple times a year, that other content creators would mention it at least once, right? But that's just never been my experience.
Now, what do I have? Well, I have a stream, right, where I talked about it. I probably shouted it out. I have the reference of when it came in. I have all that information. So a lot of the times what I will do is I will send PayPal, hey, here's my stream. Here's the moment the tip came in. There was a pop-up on stream. I shouted it out. And that coincides with the tip that they sent. You can see that text message in the tip. It's all legit. So unless they can prove that someone had unauthorized access to their account and sent that without their permission, that's a legitimate contribution. That's a legitimate tip and should be kept. Okay?
Okay, so it sounds like you have all of the evidence that you need to verify what they're asking for, and you get to keep the money at the end of the day. Why are you bitching about this again?
So that's basically what I have to do. And this is completely hit or miss. Over the years, sometimes PayPal 100% will side with you. Okay, you're the streamer, we got it, we saw it on stream, good. You're good, keep the money, case closed. And then other times they'll say, well, we want more information. What information? I don't know the person. It's tips just coming. How the hell would I know anything more? What do you even want me to say or prove? And they don't tell you. They give us more information. What the fuck do you want? Do you want, you know what I mean? Like, do you want me to hire a private investigator to find out who the person is? I don't know what you expect from me to keep this stupid tip.
DSP has been constantly flip-flopping throughout the years, whether or not he wins all of these chargebacks or he doesn't win any of them, or it's hit or miss. Because for a very long time, he was saying that he always had to fight them and it was this huge deal. And then he started saying that he always got them back, so you're wasting your time and you're never going to receive your money back. It just makes me wonder what the reality really is and when I can and can't believe him when it comes to this subject. And that's the problem with him lying all of the time nonstop. His credibility is just completely in the gutter. What I can say from personal experience, though, is that PayPal does ask an absurd amount of questions about the payments that you're receiving through their service. I'm sure that they're doing their due diligence and just trying to cover their ass at all times, but I really don't need you to question why I'm receiving money every single time that I receive money. I don't need to answer 9,000 captchas just to see my balance. Sorry, I got derailed. PayPal irks the shit out of me sometimes.
And that's really the problem for me, is that it's not consistent. If there was a consistent criteria that PayPal used to say, this is legit and this isn't, this is covered and this isn't, then I'd be happy, but they don't. Over the years that I've been a live streamer since 2017, right? So now you're talking over 6 years. They're all over the place. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. Sometimes they're on your side, sometimes they just take the money away, and there's nothing you can do about it, right?
Something that you absolutely could do but refuse to is to just quit taking contributions through PayPal directly and instead have all of your contributions come through your YouTube channel and just receive the check every month. All of your content is on YouTube anyway. You don't upload anywhere else, so you might as well just have all of your contributions come through YouTube as well. I'm fully aware that PayPal takes a smaller cut than YouTube does, but if this is a problem that you're continuously having with PayPal since 2017, you might want to look into actually doing something about it instead of just complaining about it year after year. I mean, how many chargeback sagas are we gonna get before the end? Because it seems like we get at least 1 or 2 a year. And every single time that it happens, you give us the same spiel again and again and again about how chargebacks are bullshit and PayPal is bullshit and everybody's against you and you're so low on money. How it would be really helpful if people supported you because you're down X amount of dollars because you got that chargeback this week. It's just tiring, DSP. Please come up with a different grift. I'm tired of hearing the same story year after year.
So I want you to think about this. Someone sends me a $200 tip and says outright in the tip, I'm not a fan of yours, I'm actually a detractor and a hater, but because you're playing Baldur's Gate 3, I'm supporting you with it. How can I trust that tip? At any moment, the rug can be pulled out from under me, and that person can decide to lie to PayPal and say, oh, you know, I didn't send that tip. I didn't mean to do that. That was an accident.
Why does it really matter if you believe the tip, though? I'm failing to see why it matters whether or not you believe it. Like, I understand why you wouldn't believe it, but who gives a shit if you believe it or not? That money is in your account until it's not. And that's the case for every tip that you receive. Just because they don't openly say that they're detractors doesn't mean that they aren't. You would never know. And this guy outright told you, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you believe him or not, because you could spend that money or you could not spend that money. It could get charged back or it could not get charged back. But I just don't see why we're sitting here talking about whether you believe it or not. Of course you don't, and that's fine. Move on. And I know that people were giving him shit for not putting it up on the leaderboard when it came through. And maybe that's why he's addressing this, because people were saying that he wasn't counting money that he was given and he was lying about how much money he had because technically he had gotten $200 more and he was letting on. And in this case, I would be on DSP's side if he actually gave his audience anything worth of value for the money that he was putting up on the leaderboard. If he was doing some sort of event or giveaway or something, if he hit a certain amount of tips, I could understand why he wouldn't be wanting to count it on the leaderboard if it was a little iffy. But the only reward that these people get is he puts on some goddamn glasses, a hat, and a vest. Who cares if you accidentally count $200 that's gonna be charged back and have to put on the vest when you shouldn't have? He's gonna charge back that money anyway. Does it really hurt you that much to put on the vest? I don't know, to me it just seems like if you're trying to pick the lesser of two evils, you're better off just putting on your stupid clothes even though they didn't technically earn it by giving you a bunch of money instead of scamming people out of the reward that they were supposed to get.
And now it's on PayPal to make this determination of if the tip's legit or not, which it is. Legally, it is. Obviously, no one hacked the person's account to specifically send one tip just to me and only me. You know what I'm saying? It's the most ludicrous thing that PayPal would believe it. But again, they don't have any set criteria. So that's really the problem here with PayPal, is that it's inconsistent. So in the case of me believing certain tips or not believing certain tips, I usually always give it the benefit of the doubt. But in a case where someone's going to send me a tip and they're going to outright say something like I'm a detractor, then I'm not going to believe it, because chances are somewhere down the line, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's a week, whether it's a month, someone's going to try to pull something.
I'm going to press X to doubt on that one just because I don't actually believe that you give anybody the benefit of the doubt in any circumstance. Your paranoid side fell for a reason, and you make that reason very clear just now. Because in the defense that you just gave, you didn't say that he was going to specifically charge back. What you said is that somebody is going to try something eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this week or next month. Well, how long are you going to be paranoid about this for, DSP? Are you just never going to trust any tip for any period of time because maybe one day somebody will charge something back? Do you see how that sounds?
Just recently, in the month of November, I had tips from back in early September that got charged back. That now I'm being told those were fraud, and that, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that's 2.5 months ago. Obviously, you know, there's nothing I can do to really defend that, you know, and that's money that already I thought I had and I spent on bills and things, and now you're taking money away from me.
What do you mean that there's no way that you can defend that? I thought you said that all you needed was a stream archive or a video on demand that you could send to them and show them the message that came through to prove that it was totally legitimate. Did you not upload that? Was that one of those unrecorded begging segments that came through? Because unless it was one of those, I really failed to see why you wouldn't still have that stream available to you. And of course, I have to point out that if he's aware of things like this happening, because they happen time and time again, why doesn't he have money kept away in his bank account for situations like this? My real life experience has taught me that you only have to be in a bad situation one time to realize that you don't want to be there anymore, and you'll make sure that that doesn't happen again. You're meaning to tell me that DSP just can't budget no matter how much money he has received throughout the years so that there's enough money in his bank account in case a chargeback comes through? That just seems a little suspicious to me, especially given how much money DSP actually receives throughout the year. How does this highly educated business degree having business owner not have any spare money in his bank account for things like this that happen with his business? Especially since this is not the first time it's happened.
And that's, how is that right? How is that my fault? Why am I being punished? Right? It's bullshit. So that's what I mean. When I get certain tips and people say certain things in those tips, I don't know if I can believe them or not. I don't know if that's something that can be depended on or not. I would hope so. Like, for example, if that person last Monday, that $200 tip was legit, thank you. That will help a ton, especially now around the holidays. That's going to be something very positive. But I don't know if I can trust that or not at all. I have no idea if that's something that's trustworthy or not.
Still failing to see why DSP believing in it is relevant. It's not going to stop him from losing the money.
It very well may not be down the line, but I hope it is. And that's great. I would hope that that person, even if they don't like me, have been watching the Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. They're actually liking it because they're seeing I'm giving effort to learn it. I'm working with my audience to make it the best playthrough it can be. And I hope that they're enjoying and they feel like they got their money's worth, right?
Yeah, having seen brief amounts of the Baldur's Gate 3 gameplay, I would have to say that that's pretty much the experience for nobody. It's been nothing but hand-holding, bitching, and moaning and complaining the entire time because you're too stupid and stubborn to actually learn anything at all. I've said this before, but DSP has a really unique ability to make any game look way worse than it actually is. He can make the most exciting games look boring. He can make the most interesting games look shallow. And unfortunately, I don't think that Baldur's Gate is breaking that mold whatsoever.
So there you go. But I don't know. So why am I bringing this up now? I just received a $12 tip. It's from someone who's being listed as anonymous, so it doesn't have any information. And it says, Merry Christmas, Phil. And then it's an insult afterward, right? It's an actual detractor meme.
But if you're really trying to prove your point, please, DSP, read it to us so that we actually know what you're talking about. Because like I said earlier, your credibility is absolutely in the gutter. It's in the toilet. No one could believe anything that you say. So what is the detractor meme? How innocent is it actually? Did someone just say that you suck, or did they mention your wife? Because those are two totally different things. If it just says that you suck at video games and that you should quit e-begging, like, bro, just read it and count the tip and move on.
So how do I know if this is legit or not? This could very well be someone with bad taste thinking that reiterating a dumb detractor meme is funny. It's not.
Well, that's gold coming from you, though, DSP, because you've been known to steal detractor memes. Are we gonna forget that whole Fraga thing that you were doing for a while? Where a bunch of people in your chat were saying, "What up, Fraga?" to everybody that was coming through because you get made fun of for saying things funny like frog and log? What about when you were over on Twitch and you had your own Twitch currency like everybody else does and you had them called penne points? That's a detractor meme because one time that you said that your favorite pasta was penne pasta, and penne means peebis. So everybody thinks that you like peebis pasta. That didn't stop you then from taking that joke and running with it. So why would it be out of the realm of possibility that this guy could try and steal another detractor meme and turn it into a funny positive for you? You remember when I pressed X to doubt earlier because I didn't think that this guy actually gave the benefit of the doubt to anybody? Here's a prime example of that. He literally just said, I don't know if this guy is trying to be funny by repeating a detractor meme at me, but he's not going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. He's just going to think that he's a toxic asshole. And here we are wildly speculating because DSP doesn't have the balls to actually just read what the thing said so that he could give us an accurate depiction of what he's talking about. It kind of defeats the entire purpose of having this discussion at all.
It makes it that I'm skeptical, right? So I have no clue if I can trust this person's tip or not, right? I would like to count it and say, hey, let's count it towards the stream, towards our goals. But I'm not going to.
So that's exactly what it is. That's why it matters whether or not DSP believes in whether these tips are real or not. Because he doesn't want to count it to the goals. You know, the goals that cost him nothing to do. It's not even any extra work whatsoever for him to just put on a stupid hat. It just seems like a really weird hill to want to die on. Because worst case scenario, they charge it back and you wore a hat that you shouldn't have been wearing. Like anyone gives a shit. But best case scenario, they charge it back and you weren't wearing a stupid hat? Is it really that big a difference?
I'm just not going to. And I'm gonna now lay down the rule. I'm starting today.
It's always so cringe when he has to lay down the law or lay down the rule or whatever he wants to say. To sit here and act like he has some sort of actual authority. When the reality is that he's just some bozo who e-begs all day and plays video games poorly. But I guess that he's got to keep his dents in line somehow. And these weird public displays of fake authority and power is the way to do it for him.
If you're gonna contribute to my streams, don't reference detractor shit. That's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. I don't care if you participate in detractor content. I can't make you not do that. I can't make you not watch these idiots out there who make a living making fun of me, okay?
What detractors are actively making enough money to make a living off of DSP? Only one of them actually comes to mind, and that's the head honcho himself, Mr. Almighty Tevin. So I guess shout out to the Almighty Egg Gang. But he doesn't even do exclusively DSP content. Quite a bit of his streams are just shit that he likes to do. And he gets support for that as well, so you can't even say that he's just making a living off of DSP. It's an aspect to what he does. I can't tell you how many times I went over there when we're sitting there watching Cobra videos for a while. Or he's playing video games, so who is making a living off of DSP?
In fact, you know, I don't care. I don't pay attention to them. I don't even know. Like I said, I haven't been paying attention to anything they're doing. They very well could have come up with 20 new negative memes about me in the last couple months. I don't pay attention to them. I have no clue what's happened. I don't give a shit. I'm happy to stay out of their circles of bullshit.
So tell me then, DSP, how do you intend on accurately being able to tell whether or not people are including detractor memes in their contribution messages? If you don't keep up with the detractors, if you don't know what they're talking about and what memes they're saying, which I'm not buying for a second, because at least to me, it seems like it's very likely that you watch a lot of detractor content, that you can't stop watching content about yourself, because there's been quite a few times where you say very specific things that only your detractors are talking about, and there would really be no reason why you would be mentioning them other than that you either saw or heard that they were saying these things.
People come in here and try, did you know that this person just fucking get right out of the chat right now? I don't want to hear your nonsense. You're out. Bye-bye. And then we just move right on as if it never happened. I think people at this point know the rule of thumb. I don't play that fucking bullshit game. And if you come in here and you try to talk negative, you're just out the door. No one gives a fuck.
Yeah, clearly DSP doesn't care. That's why he brings it up all of the time and feels the need to reiterate all of the time. Because you know, when people actually don't care about things, they bring it up frequently.
Right? So that's the case. And that has always been the rule, by the way. Is that if you come in here and you reference detractor stuff, you're out. No one cares about it. This is a positive community. I don't care about people ragging on me. Let them do it in their own content. Leave it off of mine.
But I brought up 2 instances earlier where you tried to steal detractor memes and use them in a positive way on your own stream. So how do you bother explaining that, DSP? Please enlighten me. Because if you ask me, that doesn't sound like they're leaving it on their streams and not bringing it to yours. It sounds like you are very much inviting those memes onto your very streams. So is this you flip-flopping? Is this you being a hypocrite? Or is this you talking out of both sides of your mouth because you can never keep your story straight?
Okay? So in this case with this tip, I'm going to lay down the law right now. Listen, I appreciate the tip if it's legit. Thank you if it is legit, and I hope it is. But I'm not counting it on my stream because you had to say something very stupid in the tip message. Don't do that.
I might not be nearly as old as DSP is, but what I have learned in my brief time on this planet is that it's very often not about what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And I think that this applies in this situation, because what DSP is saying could 100% be said in a way that didn't come off nearly as scummy as he does. It's not difficult to just say, hey, I don't really appreciate the message that you sent. I don't know if you're being genuine or not. It's got detractor memes in it. That's not really cool. I'm not going to count it into the leaderboard, but if you want to clarify, I'd really appreciate that so that I could get you up there. But until you clarify, I'm not really comfortable with that. I apologize. But instead of just saying that, DSP has to say that you said something stupid. Don't do that again. He's laying down the law. And I think that that's a large reason why people have such an issue with DSP, because no matter what he's saying, whether it be right, wrong, or otherwise, it's all about how he's saying it, and he always manages to pick the worst way to say everything.
Same thing with the $200 tip or everyone else. Just don't do that. Even if you are a detractor. If you want us to contribute, just contribute. You don't have to say the dumb thing like that, and the next thing I don't know if I can trust you or not, right?
Well, from one detractor to another, I don't think that you're a real detractor if you're willing to give DSP money. I can't support these LARPers. If you give the pig roach money, you're no good in my book. It really is that simple.
It's messed up. So, it's that simple. You know, and again, someone says, who was it? I don't know. It's anonymous. It's not even like it's a name that I can recognize. Say, oh, I know that person. It's anonymous. There's no name included with it. It's just an anonymous tip. So I don't know who the person is. They could be legit. It could be someone who's actually tipped before, and they just decided this time to put in a stupid detractor meme with it. I don't know. I don't care.
He doesn't know when he doesn't care. And he most definitely doesn't care enough to figure out what is actually going on so that he can stop treating you like trash if you were trying to be sincere. He's just going to take your money and move on. How about next time you don't act like a moron, dude? Come on. Like I said, I think that real detractors don't ever send DSP money. If you do, you're just as dented as his actual fans.
I'm just not, like I said, I'm not playing that game. I'm not wasting time on it. So that's my new rule of thumb. If I see contributions come in and they say anything stupid meme detractor related that's negative, I'm just ignoring it. I'm sorry. I want to give you credit for your contribution. Then don't say the dumb thing, because I can't trust it. I can't trust it if there's a chance that these idiots are going to charge back and commit fraud, which is a crime. They don't care because they think they can get away with anything on the internet, right?
And now he's just looping, which tells me that he doesn't actually have anything else to say on the subject. He just wants to hear himself talk and waste more time. Just blatant disregard for the time of his viewers by repeating the same thing again and again.
It's happened a million times before. I'm sure it'll happen a million times again. So, you know, if I see it, that's it. It's just, I'm not paying no attention to it anymore. It's just as if it never happened. Okay? So to this person, sorry, I want to count your tip. But you said the thing you said, and now I'm going to ignore it. Sorry. I wish you didn't do that. I wish that you were smarter than that, but you did the dumb thing, and now I'm just going to ignore it. Okay?
And look at that, just like clockwork. DSP went right back to addressing that in the worst way possible, saying to the person that gave him money, sorry, I wish you were smarter than to say the thing that you said. I also wish that he was smarter, DSP. I wish he was smart enough not to give you money. I wish all of your dents were that smart. That'll be the day.
Okay. Let me look. So here's a funny one. I'll read this. You ready? I'll read this one because this is hilarious, because people always accuse me of being a hypocrite, but then there's things they say about me are factually untrue, making them hypocrites. So here's an example of this.
Yes, as sad as it is to say, this is unfortunately gonna be another two-part episode. Some of these segments are just so long from DSP that if I were to cover them all at once, the episodes would be huge. And unfortunately, today I just don't have that kind of time. But I didn't want to leave you with nothing. I know a lot of you guys like the daily videos, a lot of you like to listen to me while you're on lunch break or on your way to work or however you listen. But with all that being said, the spin-off style shout out, I do think that this is a fairly natural conclusion to stop at anyway. So yes, it's a two-part episode. This was the preamble, this was the lead-in. But I'm not gonna leave you empty-handed. I'm gonna give you at least a little sneak peek here.
It's all about personal gain and money. It's at any means necessary. I want nothing to do with any of you. You're a loser, right? And you say you don't have to act holier than thou. You know, you're right, I don't have to, because I don't have to act when it's true. All right?
So I hope that was enticing, and I hope that all of you come back for part 2 tomorrow. Of course, again, big up Snort Hogan for the clip in this one and the next one. I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you. Obviously, shout out everybody who watched the video, especially if you made it this far. Thank you for that. Of course, a special shout out to all of my members. I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. Hopefully, I'll catch all of you guys in the next video, but until then, make sure that you check out other Detractor channels and dive deeper into that. Snortex.